everyone, to part 3 of our 4-part series episodes on wine appreciation and getting started with the right steps to enjoying wine better. With us today, we have Gail. Hi, Gail.
Hi.
And our topic for today is really important because we've gone through choosing the right wine, why is wine more expensive, and why some other wines are cheaper. Then we went on to discuss different ways of storing wine once you've bought it. Where do you put it at home to maximize your, of course, enjoyment of every sip? Now, the most important part, it's enjoying the wine and actually sipping it. I know that a lot of people might not have the right wine glasses at home. Is that a problem? Let's find out. I know that people might drink it in plastic cups maybe. Is that good or bad? We do that on camping, so why not? And how does the right glassware affect enjoying every sip? So, Gail, tell us more about this.
Just with the notion of drinking wine from a plastic cup, I kind of had a mini heart attack with with imagining like a beautiful, glorious wine.
In the making, it's like,
yeah.
As you explained earlier, all of these beautiful labor that went into it, and the storage and the proper shipping, and then you're gonna drink it in plastic.
I think because I've met the winemaker of Neindre in Bordeaux a few years ago. I think he'd laugh at you, but not be so appreciative of that fact. But the science though behind the notion of a plastic cup, to be perfectly honest, is that if you put something that has high levels of acidity in a plastic container, it will erode the plastic a little bit, and that would not be so good for your body, number one. And number two, the taste will be altered a little bit. So just a couple of things to consider if you decide to. I'm not going to judge you, but those are the two things that would potentially happen. Which brings us to the reason why you want to have an appropriate wine glass. Honestly, it's because appropriate wine glasses bring out the better characteristics of your wine. By appropriate, we could go through a few sample wine glasses here. You can have an idea what I'm talking about in terms of appropriate. Generally speaking, we're talking about red wine glasses. If you want to start off with your first red wine glass, I highly suggest a Bordeaux glass like this. So it works beautifully with very rich, very huge, very powerful red wine. If you want to go all the way and get fancy with your red wine glasses already, you want to also get a Burgundy glass, which kind of looks like this. So it looks a little bit rounder versus your Bordeaux glass. So this one allows for much more room for you to be able to swirl. There's a lesser chance for you to be able to spill this particular shape versus this particular shape. Now, why do you want to do that? Because when you're talking about Burgundy wine, you're just thinking about Pinot Noir, so the gentler red. That's what you're thinking of. And you want to be able to really nose it, really smell your wine, to be able to get the nuances out, precisely because it's such a gentle style of wine versus your Bordeaux, which tends to be bigger, powerful reds. It's not bad technically to consume it in one of these, but it's a bit of an assault to your nose if you try it with one of these because it's so open.
I noticed that your glasses are really big. I'm going to show you mine. I have the same. I have a Burgundy here and a Bordeaux glass over here. Do they look like the same size or bigger or smaller?
Yeah, they're pretty much the same, but I think this is a little bigger though, precisely because that's what the brand does in terms of their style of Bordeaux glasses.
It's about the shape as well, right? But
yeah, it's about the shape.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so ideally, generally for all wine glasses, if you notice, speaking of shape, they tend to be wider here. So it goes from narrow, wide, and then goes up and it gets narrow here. The reason why you want to have a narrower edge is because you want to be able to trap the smells there. You don't want it to disperse so much and hence not be able to appreciate your wine. Because bottom line is, when you're talking about wine, when you're appreciating your wine, you want to be able to not just taste it, you also want to be able to really appreciate the smell of the wine. Hence, you kind of want to have that. So those are your two red wine glasses rather. Then you have the for size differences. This is from the exact same glass maker, but this is their version of their red wine glass, their Bordeaux glass versus their general white wine glass. So as you can see, there's a bit of a size difference because for the white wines, you want to be able to keep it cold. For something that is this large, there's a bigger chance for heat to be able to get transferred through the surface versus this one, which is significantly smaller. So that's the shortest way to be able to explain why white wine glasses tend to be smaller versus your red wine glass. Of course, we're not just going to talk about red wine and white wine. We're going to talk about sparkling wine because it's always something that you want to be able to drink for celebration. So as you can see, this is what is called a flute, a champagne flute. But technically, you could also use it for sparkling wine that is not champagne. You could use it for cava. You could use it for prosecco. The reason why it's significantly narrower is because you want to not allow the bubbles to disperse so fast. If you put sparkling wine in a bigger glass, such as this one, the bubbles will disperse much, much faster. And, the effervescence is something that you want to have for your sparkling wine. So you want to be able to use something that is narrower. The other one that you want to have as well is for your port. This is your tiny little port glass. So as you can see, the reason why it's smaller is because dessert wine tends to be very rich, very sweet. You don't want to have too much of it because it's a little bit cloying to your mouth and you'll get sick of it eventually. Those are, if you ask me, those are the basics that you want to have. The other question that I tend to get asked all the time is that, is it worth investing in the more expensive wine glasses? If you're starting out in your wine journey, I'm going to tell you that you do need years of experience to be able to tell the difference. There's a lot of studies that have been conducted for novice wine drinkers, and the studies have shown that if you're starting out in your wine journey, you could barely tell the difference between wine that is served in a crystal glass versus a standard glass. The samples I have for today is like my burgundy glass is a standard glass and my Bordeaux glass is a crystal. If you're starting out with your wine journey, put the same wine in both glasses, you're not going to be able to tell the difference. But as you mature into your wine journey, as you start tasting so many different wines, you will be able to detect those little nuances. I did an experiment a few weeks ago with a standard white wine glass versus a crystal wine glass for a Celina, right? They tend to be very big, very floral, and I noticed that the mineral characteristics of the wine only came out from the crystal versus your standard glass, which is again something that somebody like me who's been drinking wine for like a long, long time that would be able to notice. But bottom line is that is something that you want to be able to have. The other thing that you want to be able to, in the future, invest in is something called a decanter. I'm going to try to reach across without crashing through the rest of the glasses. So this is a decanter. When do you use these things? You want to be able to use this when you get a big, powerful, huge red wine. So an example would be a Bordeaux, would be something that you want to have here. I have had a very upscale Chilean Cabernet Sauvignon that also needed to be decanted. The reason is you want to be able to get it to open up. What does it mean for you to open up your wine? It means that you want to introduce a limited amount of oxygen to be able to get the correct characteristics out. It's especially something that you want to do for the older wines, but there are two reasons for that. Older wines tend to be significantly more closed. You don't get the fruit so much, so you want to be able to aerate it for a little bit. Plus the fact that you want to separate the sedimentation from the bottle to your decanter. So by the time that you enjoy your wine in your glass, the sedimentation is done. Watch our previous episodes, we've already discussed that. It's not bad in terms of, it doesn't make your wine bad, it's just kind of doesn't feel nice to have, grainy sensations in your mouth. So for older wine, something that has had sedimentation settled into it, you want to be able to decant it. I have friends who are in our 30s and a little younger. Some people ask me, but will you be judgmental if I decide to drink my wine in one of these, which is like a glass tumbler? Absolutely no judgment there. It's just a bit of a shame if you use something like a tumbler for the very, very beautiful, very well thought of wines, because you want to be able to get that expression that the winemaker intended for you to have. If you have it in a tumbler, you'd be able to lose that.
Show up at the party and the host has only those glasses and you brought a beautiful bottle.
I would probably say, you know what? Let me teach you how to store your wine. In fact, you could look at a previous video that I made with Celina for Clink. Yeah, and then afterwards, I'll come back in a couple of weeks. I will gift you with a few beautiful glasses that I think would work well for your house. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, but I've had some of my best experiences, honestly, involve informal situations with friends that I made in Paris of all places. We're just eating really good, glorious food. We were having good wine. You know that it's not going to be like a super upscale wine, but it's good wine. We were all sitting at a coffee table, all I think 8-10 of us in various languages, having the wine in a tumbler. And it's not so bad. It's not so bad.
We've all done it, Gail.
Yeah, we've all done it. I was moving houses a couple of months ago and I had to store away all my wine glasses and I had no choice but to drink wine from a tumbler. So there we go.
Oh, great. So yeah, I think it's really important to know how to properly drink wine. I mean, occasions aside, if you must drink wine and you have no other options, then by all means go with what you have. But always have good glasses on hand at home at least. Because again, you're starting your journey with wine and you're beginning to educate yourself to improve your knowledge about wine and enjoy food better. And I think wine is really something that's very community oriented. You want to sit down and talk with people. It opens up conversation. So having the right glassware is also another great topic. How you acquired them, where you got your wine. I mean, just the action of swirling and sniffing also is a big part of, I think, the wine enjoyment. And I think drinking out of a tumbler really takes that away. I love my favorite part of wine. If we're drinking together, you'll know me. If you've had a meal with me, you know that half the time I have my nose in my glass because I love the smell of wine. And I think it's one of the better parts of a meal when in between bites and sips, you can have a chat and listen to your friends while still smelling something really, really good. And I also think it's a great way to hold and show a bit of table manners. I think it really polishes up your dining experience. And when you do drink wine properly and you know how to drink it and you know how to serve it with the right food, it definitely gives a bit more of an impression of yourself and how much you respect your friends and how much you prepared to have them around. So I think, yes, it is important to know which glass to use. Thank you so much for everything, Gail.
You're welcome.
All right, that wraps up our third video. Stay tuned for our fourth video where we'll finally be talking about my favorite part, tasting wine, opening wine, and really finally enjoying a sip with Gail. I can't wait to share a glass with you, my dear. See you in the next episode.
Awesome. All right.
Yes, bye.